No.
No.
Never. Except overseas travelling, not in Australia. I've had no income, but I haven't lived on the streets or anything. No.
No.
Yes. Well, just never give up, never stop moving. You know, like you see a lot of people in Melbourne, for instance, that might have like a beanie or a hat waiting for money and waiting for change, but change never comes. You know, they might get some loose change, but no real change. You know, you got to keep going to your appointments, keep applying for jobs, and keep meeting people. I had a lot of people that would take me in and put me up on their couch, for example. You know, a lot of people have family they can rely on. I do have family I probably could have relied on, but I never wanted to burden them, and they were also quite often a pretty big distance from where my priorities lie.
Haven't, I guess. Just manage day by day.
Well, to seek help. I'm not sure what organisations do help, but I know there are a number of organisations you can seek help from for homelessness. Pretty much what I just said, you know, never stop moving, just keep on trying, you know. Don't give up, and again, meet people, because we're all in this together. If you stay stagnant, you know, people eventually, I mean, they might help you out the first few times they see you, but then they get used to seeing you, and they just think, oh, it's just that guy, you know what I mean? And they'll just keep walking past eventually. So that's why I think it's important to just keep meeting new people and keep on, you know, keeping on, so to speak.
I think it'd be very hard to give them advice. Just wish them good luck and I hope they find something. I like the idea of these little tiny houses that are maybe being established on easements along highways that aren't used to provide some accommodation for people. I saw that proposed a few months ago, but I don't know if it actually happened. And I just feel so sorry for them and the people, the mad ones who are on the ice.
It's just, causing me a lot of anxiety about my future, and just, I'm worried I won't be able to buy a house, buy a car, and, you know, like have kids and stuff like that, because I won't be able to provide for them. So it has caused a lot of long-term anxiety and that kind of thing. Well, obviously when you're unemployed, it's kind of hard to save up for a bond for a house. I also had gambling issues and addiction issues, and so it was quite difficult. You know. My mother was also unemployed, so I guess it kind of, I don't want to say I followed in her footsteps, but I didn't really have any examples to lead by.
I was separated and I was unemployed. I did voluntary work with the adult migrant education with people. I had just received unemployment benefit for a few years, and then I did what they call a NEET scheme. I don't even remember what it is, but it's basically work for the dole as a brick paver and bricklayer, and that led on ultimately to me being accepted for a place in Burnley Horticultural College, which led on to something. The other thing, to get that job, I worked at the university doing that bricklaying, but there's a number of times in my life where I've obtained employment by volunteering in a organisation first, and then ultimately a position will come up and they will say, better the devil they know than the one they don't. You're responsible. That's a good way of getting some sort of work.
Being employed, I relied on a lot of the money, but being unemployed, I just lost so much money. I had to lose a good house, had to lose my dog, had to lose a lot of stuff just to be able to survive.
It was really hard because you go up and ask them for stuff, and once they find out you've got a disability or a speech loss, but they're not interested into you anymore. They just tell you, no, sorry, we expect people with more experience.
Yes, and also it shows good intent, you know, like if you're responsible and you're willing to do that, and you can ask for references from those people who you volunteer with that will help you get a paid position.
Kind of makes you feel like you're not good enough, and you feel like an underdog and all that sort of thing. They don't treat you, I don't think they treat you as nicely as they would, say, someone that was employed. Look down on you a bit, I feel.
There's some people are kind, but just as some people are kind, some people are quite uncouth. You know? I've been discriminated against and I've been harassed. I've had to fight a lot of times. You know? It's not safe out there.
I must admit that I don't tend to advertise it. At this time, I've got a small amount of income sometimes from selling some cattle on the farm, and some years you don't make any money at all. But I will go to the unemployment office, not in my own town, because initially I would have found it embarrassing. Now I'm so short of money I can't necessarily drive to the other town. I feel like there is a you know, why there's that questioning, why aren't you employed? And that's why I always volunteer anyway. But anyway.
Pretty much the same, I guess. I haven't really experienced someone being so nasty against someone being unemployed.
Some have been kind, some have been rude about it. And I always tell them, why don't you just give people with disabilities a chance to show what we can do. We can be the same way a normal person can be. It may take us longer, but we have the willing to work too. They call you nasty names, which I can't repeat. They've just slammed the door on us. They've pushed the rude ones. But with the people that are kind, they treat you with respect. They ask for your name, number and your resume and see if any jobs come up. They can ring you up and give you some experience or on-site training.
Kind of feels like a never-ending battle of not being able to find work, because I've put out so many applications, 200, like for the graphic design jobs, and for other jobs I've put out like 250, separate for those, cleaning jobs and retail. Most of them I don't hear back from. Some of them they will just say you need experience to work.
Well, it depends, you know, there's a lot of different classes of homelessness. For instance, like when I was couch surfing, that's pretty alright, you know what I mean? Like you've got a roof over your head, you don't have to worry about being in danger, you just got to kind of abide by the rules and guidelines that you're given by the person that you're renting with. Sleeping on the street though is a completely different scenario, you know, like constantly in fear. You know, you've got to go to sleep with one hand on your wallet and another hand on your pocket knife, so to speak. And you know, but again, back to my earlier point about just keeping on moving and keep meeting people. There was like a cafe that used to be open in Melbourne. They used to let me use their staff toilet, use their PowerPoints to charge my phone, and even sleep at their tables sometimes. And that really, really helped. And I kept applying for jobs as well. As I said, I had a security license back in the day, and I was working a lot in Melbourne, and I told my boss that I lived in Melbourne, but I didn't have anywhere to live. But I had a lot of money because I was working, and I would stay in hotels sometimes, but I couldn't afford the whole week, which is why I would gamble. A lot of the time I would win, and I could just keep paying out the hotel to stay there. But then if you lost, you got nothing for the next fortnight.
Sometimes I have an arrangement with the next door neighbours that I go there for coffee in the morning, because otherwise I'm entirely on my own. And sometimes you get a bit sad sitting there on your own. So that's one thing I do. And now I also volunteer at the local museum curating their collection. But on a farm you've got certain chores you have to do, and I just I set myself alarms so I have breakfast and lunch and tea, otherwise I have to forget it. Or, you know, I just got to try and make some, and I like to go for a walk outside if I'm not doing, even if I'm not doing any farm work, because going for a walk, the fresh air does you good. Sort of, it helps with your attitude, general attitude to things. I am lucky enough in that I own my farm. I don't have to pay a mortgage, so I've only got to survive and pay the rates and that sort of thing. I don't sleep very well at all. I haven't for years now. I wake up almost on my hour.
Boring. Really, there's like absolutely nothing to do. There's, you know, everything costs money. If you want to be a swimmer, you got to pay some sort of money to be able to do it. There's nothing that's out there that's for free.
Boring. That's all I can say, boring. Trying to find jobs around here. It's just really hard to find, and it's really hard finding employment, especially when people don't want to hire you or train you for get more experience. Yes, I have, but I haven't had much success with it.
Well, we do have one or two people who come in who are probably in a situation like that. And again, isolating people like that is no good. People have to feel like that the people care. And if they've got psychological issues as well, they can be very ostracised. So we have a lot of people, if we don't have many genuinely homeless people come in, because again, they may not hear about it. We put the word out there, but it's very rare that you actually get someone who is genuinely homeless. We've had it happen, and that's really good when we reach those people as well. But there is no excuse for it in our society. We are bound up in red tape way too much. The whole of, I always think of it, like with the suspended coffee, we don't ask. But because it's other people's money, our community's money, we take it seriously that we want people to know that's where the money comes from a fellow human being is trying to look after you, and we try to make sure everyone knows about it. But with things like people who are unemployment benefits, there's a lot of treating everybody like a criminal, and we don't want that to happen anymore. You have to be kind to people, but root out the genuine thoughts. Don't treat everybody like a criminal, treat the criminals like the criminal and get them out of the system. And I feel that people who know how to court always end up finding the loopholes anyway, but get rid of them and we'll be able to afford to look after the people who are genuinely in there. And it's often only short term that they need our help, you know, the community's help. And then they get themselves back on their feet, but don't treat them so badly while they're trying to get themselves on their feet. That's my opinion about those sorts of things. Usually people only want short-term help, and that we should be giving it to them with kindness. But get rid of the rorts.
So I would say that yes to all those things. So and not for one person, but across the board. So we some of the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis are around domestic violence. People, you know, when they're unemployed, you know, they're quite often, what's that terminology around an idle mind is a devil's playground. So it can really, you know, not having a purpose, not having somewhere to go and somewhere to be, can really start messing with people's mental health. And that then, you know, has an impact on their ability to go out and look for work and be part of that functional society. So yes, we definitely see that. We also, you know, see people that, particularly if they've been unemployed for a long time, they are already living well below the poverty line. So we support in a number of ways. So that could be through our food bank or our free store. And even, you know, emergency relief support when we are able to give it. We often actually just about every week I speak to somebody who is living in their car. And that's not necessarily the role of the neighbourhood house, but we'll be supporting through the food bank or other things they might be tapping into. And then, you know, we will then find out that they will be living in their car, or, you know, they're in some sort of transitional, moving around, I wouldn't say housing, but, you know, like accommodation. And they've generally been unemployed for quite a long time or not been able to secure any work. So it has a real impact at the core of our community. And I think, you know, that's where the challenges lie about what are the steps and how we can be, you know, how do we be more creative and how do we encompass everybody, and instead of, you know, the trickle down effect, not trickling all the way down.